there, everybody. How are you today? I'm Connie Foote with Coffee with Connie, where we talk to you about all kinds of things regarding real estate, mortgages, closings, what happens when you buy a new home, what happens when you sell your home, all different things that might help you understand that process a little bit better. Hope you're having a great start to your day. It's a gorgeous day, and one thing I wanted to point out is we are licensed to do closings in Maryland and Virginia, but most of the stuff I talk about, including these things we're going to talk about today, are specific are not state specific. They're general and they're true no matter where you're tuning in from. So if you're tuning in from other areas other than those, this information can certainly help you as well. The other thing is if you're tuning in, please check in and say, hey, let me know that you're on. And if you find the information we talk about helpful, I would love it if you would click that little share button on the bottom left. So thanks so much for your time and tuning in. Hey there, Angela. How are you this morning? Good morning to you. So thanks for taking your time to tune in. Today I wanted to talk about documents at closing, because there's so many things that happen leading up to your closing. You know, you've gone to go to your mortgage lender to get your loan pre-approved. You've went out with your realtor to find that perfect home, and you found that perfect home. You put a contract on that perfect home. It's all super exciting stuff. And then all these other things start happening behind the scenes, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, what do I need to do now? How is all this coming together? What's my role in all of this? And so, you know, a lot of different things and a lot of different people are involved and talking. Hey, Gerald, how are you? Congratulations on all your success and all the things you have going on right now. Really looking forward to working with you too. Hope everything's going great for you guys. And tell Rob I said hi as well. So all of these things are swirling around when you are buying or selling, for that matter, your new home. But today we're going to talk a little bit about the buyer side, and then we'll come back and circle around and make sure we hit the seller side as well. So with the buyer's thoughts or area involved, let's talk about this. So you've set up your mortgage, got your pre-approval. You have started working with your real estate agent, and now you have to start thinking about closing. And you know there's all kinds of things you're going to have to do. You've probably heard from a bunch of people, oh my gosh, there's all these papers you have to sign. What is all this stuff? How do I know I'm going to understand it? How do I even know what I'm signing? How do I know what I'm doing? So there's a couple things about that. So first of all, I want to point out to you that on our website, there is a, under the buyers section, there is a sample documents book. And one thing we've done is accumulated a lot of the documents that you're probably going to see at your closing. They may be a teeny bit different, but most of them are there. The boilerplate information is there. So you can go and download that and read some of those things if you want to. Now, a lot of people by the time they get to closing are like, oh, forget it. Let me just sign what I need to sign so I can get out of here and get those keys. And that's great too. But if you have the interest and wanting to really dive in and understand what a lot of that is, this will help you disseminate some of that before you get to closing. So let's talk about when you get to closing, what happens, because, you know, a lot of times at closing, you're talking about 6 to 8 to maybe even 10 people sitting at that table. And if this is your first time or even your second or maybe even third time, you're probably going to be a little bit overwhelmed. 1, with all the people that are there, but 2, with all the paperwork that's being passed around, and 3, with all of the conversation that's happening. So the title company's job is to make sure that you understand the documents, that we go through the paperwork with you, explain it to you. But sometimes that can get a little confusing, because in your mind, you really want those keys. You really want to get all that paperwork signed. You need to start moving. Your mover's going to be there in an hour. You want to understand from the seller some things about the house, because this is really probably your first time that you actually get to talk to the seller. So they're walking you through some nuances or some things that are going on in the house. So at the closing, what should happen is the person doing your closing will go through first of all, they'll go through the numbers, the page that has all the numbers on it, and that's called the closing disclosure. And they'll go through the seller's numbers and the buyer's numbers and explain what all those numbers are. Now, more than likely, you've seen these numbers before, and this is just fine tuning and making this particular part of that process final. But in case you haven't, or maybe you didn't understand it, that's the time. So the other thing that really is important is there's a couple documents that secure your loan, the note and the deed of trust. And as the buyer, those are the other very important documents you're going to want to look at, because you need to make sure that the interest rate and the loan amount that the lender quoted you is what's on those documents. Because you have to remember, if your loan representative is not there at that closing table, that company that's doing that closing is going by the paperwork that was sent to them. So they have no ability to have any understanding of what conversations you had with your mortgage lender. So you need to make sure that you look at that, and your person doing your closing should explain to you, this is your interest rate, this is your mortgage, this is how long, or your mortgage amount, and this is how long your mortgage is going to be for, and explain what those two documents are and some of those things that the lender requirements they have on you in order to make sure that their loan gets repaid. So those documents are really important. And then the other thing that's probably going to be really important to you is what's my monthly payment. So you want to make sure that that information is correct. And at any time, if something doesn't make sense, you're confused, you maybe have a question, stop the closing or pull somebody aside and say, I don't understand, or I have a question, because there's so much confusion. As I said, you could have the sellers, you could have two sellers, their real estate agent, you could be two buyers or one buyer, and then you could have your real estate agent, and then you could have the mortgage lender, maybe some parents there for some support. So you've got all these people and all this stuff going on, and the person doing your closing who you've probably never met before, and all of that can get really confusing. And I say this because this has happened to us several times, where people will be sitting at the closing and one of the numbers happens to be incorrect. And although we all go through it a million times, we aren't privy to the conversations you have with your lender. So we have no way of knowing if your interest rate is wrong. And if you don't stop and say it, we can't correct it. And it's a lot more difficult to correct once it already is closed. So that's something that's really important. The other thing is, with closing, you really only get an hour or less, depending on the situation, usually around an hour, to go through all of that information. Now, most of the time is devoted to going through the paperwork with the buyers, but there's also some time devoted to going through the paperwork with the sellers, and any conversation everybody's going to have may delay some of that description. So again, I definitely want you to think about the possibility, if you want to review documents in advance, to call the company that does your closing and ask for those documents in advance. They more than likely will not get your paperwork from your mortgage lender until the day before or the day of your closing. But your mortgage lender can also provide you with some documentation to understand some of those things in advance. And as I said, I don't think it's a real common thing out there, but we've created a sample documents book that allows you to review some of the boilerplate information of those documents before you actually get to closing. It's on our website, www.foottetitlegroup.com. If you go on the buyers tab and you click resources, under resources, it's called sample documents book. And that'll give you some sample docs. Now, like I said, they may not be exactly what you're going to sign, but they're very close. And it gives you a little bit of a resource to understand what some of that stuff might be. So if you have questions, always ask, whether it's me, whether it's whoever's doing your closing, your realtor, your lender, ask. It doesn't matter how many people are sitting at that room, at that table in that room, pull somebody aside, walk outside, ask the question, because you are signing some documents to make yourself responsible for that mortgage and purchasing that house for the next 30 years or however long you choose to hold on to it, but that mortgage is typically going to be a 30-year mortgage. So hey, hopefully that was some good information for you. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hey, Anita. Hey, Jeff. Thank you guys. Hey, Tony. How are you? Thank you guys all. Hey, Brenda. How are you? Thank you guys all for your time this morning. Hopefully I gave you a little bit of information for your to answer some questions. That's what I always like to try to do. Please reach out and ask me any questions that you have. I love to help you with those questions because it helps me share information with other people as well that maybe I didn't realize that somebody didn't understand. So, please do that, and also please share, because if you found it interesting, then surely somebody that follows you will find what we're talking about interesting too. So hopefully I helped you a little bit today. If you're looking to buy or sell a home, we not only do your closing, but we also protect your home ownership. I'm Connie Foote with Foote Title Group. I hope you guys have an amazing day, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.